Hi everyone and welcome. We're down here in my wormery and my nightcrawlers, European nightcrawlers here in the Vermibag Mini, and African nightcrawlers I have in a tub on the table that we'll get to next. They're due for feeding, and we usually start off by checking on our Vermibag Mini here. What we're seeing here is the attempt at getting rid of these little flying insects. I had put a piece of banana in here with some vinegar. Looks like it's evaporated. It's been, I believe, 10 days since we were last in this bin to feed. It does seem like it's knocking out some bugs, but I still see bugs cruising around, flying around. I've got a lot of really good recommendations from viewers about what I could possibly do next if the problem doesn't resolve itself, so I might have to step up my efforts here. Since this container is a flow-through system, the type of container where you just keep adding, and then emptying from the bottom through a hatch. Since the whole idea of just adding on the top is the main way this bag functions, there's really no purpose to digging down into the material. So a number of months ago we made the decision not to probe the contents of the bin, that we would really stick to just feeding right on the top surface, covering up and letting them get back to work. Got a whole bunch of worms hanging out on this piece of cardboard. I believe this piece of cardboard was a fairly new addition last time we were in here. It's covered in worms. I guess if I just flip it upside down, it should take care of evicting the majority of them. Side out of our way momentarily. Right down here where we last fed, I'm seeing what appears to be little scraps of paper, bedding, and not a whole lot of anything else. Something rings a bell. I think there was some sort of a triangular pattern applied here. I think some sort of a 3-star pattern, but I see no trace of that. For whatever reason, it just sort of rings a bell roughly that I thought there was something like that going on here. This is interesting. This white stuff, I think it's maybe mold or some sort of fungus growing. It's a little bit drier over here. And it goes down away pretty deep. You gotta go down about, I usually don't dig down this deep, but I'm just really kind of probing this stuff because I'm not sure what it is. I had to go down maybe an inch before I started hitting what appears to be castings. It seems to be in this corner only. I really don't know what that is. Definitely a lighter color to it than what we're used to seeing here. But I don't want to keep probing and digging down and disrupting the material. We're going to leave it be. Usually the worms can take care of any sort of mold or any sort of fungus that grows in the bin. We'll give these guys their next feeding and move on. All right, let's get these guys fed, get them covered up, leave them be. So I'm gonna just throw one of these used coffee filters in here and cover it with some coffee. It's a fair amount of coffee. All edible by the worms. Before I forget, I'm also going to include a little bit of grit. I just pulverized a whole bunch of eggshells I had laying around, so I've got a huge supply of grit right now, so I feel very generous. And I guess we're going to go with a 1 handful amount right now. So I didn't really bring too much food down here. I figure between the coffee and this, we've got about 1.5 handfuls. We can even give them an extra couple pieces of paper. Here's more of that white stuff, I think, that we saw. Some sort of a mold or something. I can't tell what it is, but I guess we'll keep a watch on it, see what we get. as time goes on. Is that what we have here too? I almost missed it. I wasn't paying attention. Okay, here we have a little sample of what I think I'm seeing scattered throughout the bin. It's got to be some sort of a mold. Pretty interesting. It seems to have like the consistency of dough. It seems like I can just roll it around and it seems like it's holding together. Although now it's starting to come apart. Maybe it's warming up by being in my hands, loosening it up. Interesting stuff. So I guess we'll have to keep an eye on whether we get that continuing to happen or if that goes away. I don't know what that is. If anyone knows, then please feel free to chime in to comment on what the heck that is. A little bit unusual, something I've never seen in any of my bins before. Let's cover up here and move on to the African nightcrawlers. So for the past few weeks, the African nightcrawlers have inhabited this little plastic tray after spending the majority of their time in my wormery by being in the Vermibag tote. Right now the Vermibag tote is just sitting around. I've got an idea for that, but I need one of my bins that's in service right now to do that. I was going to run it in a plastic tub the way it was meant to be, as opposed to having it in a wooden frame, see if it operates differently with better moisture retention capabilities. So soon we'll have that bin back in service. For now, it's on the sidelines. This newspaper was really eaten up nicely. The material's got a real nice consistency to it as well. You saw that piece of plastic I took off the top. It's the main reason we've got such nice castings and such a nice moisture content throughout, because it's doing such a nice job recirculating the moisture. What do we have here? Corn cob. Corn cob came over with the worms from their previous stay in the Vermibag tote. But since they didn't finish eating it, it just came along for the ride when they got relocated. See all kinds of little pieces of scraps and whatnot. I've even got some sticks and stuff in here. Try to snap those in half if I find them. Here's some cardboard bedding material. Pretty good variety of this and that down the feeding zone, but other than those two pieces of corn, not too much food left over. They've done a good job eating the food that they've got in here. It was a pretty generous helping too when I originally built the bin. Since these worms were placed into a fresh bin, that bin was set up with quite a bit of food scattered throughout the four corners. Usually in the normal operation of my bins, I sort of feed down the middle in most cases. But when I set up the bins get the food added throughout, pretty heavily applied. Just noticing that there's a fair bit of bedding type material like cardboard, paper, stuff like that. Seems to be all the way down on the very, very bottom. So I thought I'd just kind of try to stir it up a little bit. It's like this, you know, laying flat on the bottom practically. Figured at this point, since we've got a nice amount of castings starting to pile up already, we just mix it all in and kind of help some of these matted together pieces of paper and whatnot stay apart from each other. Make sure that all the surfaces are available to the worms to work on. There's not a lot of room in this container, that's for sure. It's probably going to be a fairly short stay. I think we'll run out of space with these little guys pretty soon. A couple of feedings and we'll be overflowing here. So just moving things aside here, I want to give the bottom a little turn here too and get some of these large pieces up into the material. Give it all a fair chance to get broken down more easily than if it was just resting on the bottom. Send some of these nice finished castings to the bottom. They're done. They can go right down there and we'll keep composting up here on the top levels. Everything's got this really nice crumbly texture to it, nice dampness throughout as well. It's kind of cool the way the plastic keeps the moisture level in the bin almost at its perfect level. I think we're kind of at this rim here as far as the height in the bin. It really doesn't leave much, maybe 2 inches. So I'm gonna have to start thinking about where these worms are gonna continue to spend their days. I think they're gonna be outgrowing this space pretty soon. Okay, let's give them some bedding material here. I think there's plenty in this bin, so I don't think this is really making too big of a difference since they're already surrounded. Plentiful amounts of bedding in this bin, but I had a couple of these filters laying around. I figured I'd use them up, so maybe we'll use the other one just as a covering on top. These guys are getting the same treatment. They're getting a bunch of yummy cantaloupe rinds. Everything's been frozen. As it starts to thaw, it's going to become really juicy and wet. Might as well throw a little bit of grit in here for them too. Let's start introducing some of this coffee in here as well. I had hoped to do away with all of it, but I don't want to really go beyond that. This should be enough right here. So I've still got a few more pieces of melon plus a banana peel to give them. So I just wanted to leave a little bit of room for those last few bits to fit. That's a nice feeding. This stuff is, it's going to work good like this. We're going to just use it to cover up the feeding zone right there. And then we'll get everything semi-leveled off here. What an interesting little bin. Definitely puny in size. But it seems pretty capable in terms of breaking down the food that was given to it, because I think I didn't really see any signs of the previous feeding. So, not bad. We'll put this little cover on here to indicate where we fed. We'll just get the coffee filter in here too, by tradition. Nice piece of plastic. It's not even covering these two corners here, but it doesn't seem to matter. Keeps everything at a pretty nice moisture level. Definitely satisfied with what I've got here. Except here too, I don't know if these guys just flew out of the Vermibag Mini and landed in here. Hopefully they're not just starting to occupy all my bins. It's the last thing I need. Outbreak of flying insects. Alright everyone, well that's my nightcrawlers. African nightcrawlers here, the European nightcrawlers in the Vermibag Mini. I've also got another video that I shot earlier today. It was dealing with the nightcrawlers, the European nightcrawlers that live in my outside composting container, and if you want to see that video, then you can link to it up in the corner. I can leave a link for you. So hopefully you enjoyed the video. I hope you did. If you did, then please remember to give me a thumbs up. I really appreciate that. Also consider becoming a subscriber to the channel as well. I really appreciate that too. Alright everyone, thanks for watching. Have a great day. Bye now.